Join me, Stu Ellis, for the Farm Gate.
Today's morning show can be heard by downloading the free WHOW mobile app in your favorite store.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. My guest in studio this morning is Jennifer Tolladay with DeWitt County DOVE. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming out and talking with us. It's always good to have you. And this morning we're going to focus on elder abuse. And we dive into so many factions of domestic abuse. And oftentimes I think of, battered women or abusive relationships towards, targeting women. But elder abuse is a common form of domestic violence as well. Talk a little bit about just some outlining things we can start with, and we'll dive in from there. How about that?
Right now, according to the U.S. population, 14.9% of the United States population is over 65, which is what they consider senior or elderly. Unfortunately, 10% of those adults will face some kind of abuse during their senior years. That number is usually much, much higher because it's not reported because they either fear their caretaker, they don't want to get their caretaker in trouble because it's a family member or something. So unfortunately, that is a very underreported number.
I was going to say, is it oftentimes, we think of like thefts in a home. I have Chief Flowers in oftentimes, and he talks about, when your home is burglarized, it's oftentimes someone known to you. Is that how elder abuse works? Is it oftentimes someone like a family member? That's more or less what I think of. How about that?
It can be, or their caretakers, like the hired people who come in and help take care of them. That makes them more vulnerable to the financial abuse, of course, because then the person who's taking care of them has access to their funds, and they can either start paying themselves more, just taking the money. And when they're elderly, it's easier to psychologically or mentally abuse them and tell them, no, you don't know what you're talking about, you've got dementia or whatever. So they are more susceptible to be financially abused by their caretakers. That can be family, well-meaning adult children or adult grandchildren or whatever, supposedly come in to take care of them in their own house because they don't want to go to a senior community. And unfortunately, sometimes the wrong people get in there and then they can just start taking little things. They'll bully them or hold them down and leave bruises on them and are more abusive. And unfortunately, because the previous generations were more of that's a behind the doors kind of thing. You keep that quiet. You don't go out in public and talk about that.
Right.
They don't report it, or they are trying to protect their grandchildren, or even they're scared. They don't want to go to a senior living place. So they just unfortunately endure it. And it takes usually someone else coming in and seeing what's going on before they'll finally take that person to get an order of protection or do what they need to do.
It's sad to hear, that's no way to spend those final, years.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's just really disappointing. When it comes to these types of abuses, you mentioned it can be physical in nature and psychological as well. How about those things?
Also, neglect is high with people who are seniors or even people with disabilities. And with neglect, it is the caretakers are not feeding them. They're not giving them their medication they're supposed to be taking them. They're not taking them to doctor's appointments like they're supposed to. Right. To the point their health starts spiraling even worse, out of control, and their mortality rate increases.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's hard to hear. It really is. When it comes to elder abuse, you mentioned that it's more common in rural areas.
Yeah. Because the older population, it has been shown, if you go on to like the labor or the Department of Aging statistics, older populations are moving out to the rural areas. And it's easier to, just like with any kind of abuse, if they're alone, it's easier to abuse them as if they were living more like in an apartment building or closer living facility quarters, because they don't hear it. Neighbors aren't going to smell if there's neglect or anything, like unfortunately leaving them in bed sheets that haven't been changed and they're bed bound and things like that. Or they're not being bathed and cared for. They're not getting clean clothes and stuff. So it's easier for anybody basically to be abused in a rural community because it's kind of spread out further. So the abusers have the ability to kind of keep them trapped in their area.
Sure. Jennifer Tolladay with DeWitt County DOVE is our, our guest in studio this morning. For these types of incidents, if there is a family member or friend of a senior that suspects there's something going on in their lives, how do they help them? How do they intervene? What can they do?
Well, there is a national hotline to report abuse, and that's 1-800-252-8966. Also, they can call CHELP. It's indicator, but they will come out and do an investigation and keep the senior or vulnerable person separated from the abuser and kind of talk to them and get a feel for if they feel there's abuse, like if they can tell that the elderly person, the senior, is kind of intimidated or fearful, or different kinds of clues that are cues that might give away if they're being abused.
For these individuals that are perpetuating this abuse, that are affiliated with home care providers, how do they continue? I would venture a guess that for them it's a lot like when we talk about just standard domestic abuse towards like women. Abusers, it's a chronic thing that if they do it now, they're going to do it again, and they've probably done it before and all of that. At least I do correlate that to these folks that if they've done it to this individual, they've done it before and they'll do it again. How do they continue to get away with this and slip through the cracks, because they're employed by someone? How about that?
Because they're not being reported or turned in. And so then, unfortunately, when the person they're taking care of either gets hospitalized or has to go somewhere else, or unfortunately passes, they just kind of get shuffled on to the next job. And no one's reporting them. So they're program, their agency, or whoever is completely unaware of their abuse. Usually if they're doing this abuse to people they're taking care of, there's usually signs they're doing it somewhere else. Also, like if they have children, they'll be abusing, even if it's just mentally and emotionally, their children or their animals, or it all kind of bleeds out into other aspects of life. Man,
oh man. When it comes to seniors and elder abuse, Jennifer, anything we haven't touched on you want to put out there? Anything we need to know about this?
And like I said, and they are exposed to all the types of abuse, and like I said, in neglect even. And unfortunately, we just need to watch our seniors and keep a close eye on them. Not everybody's being abused, but they are a vulnerable population. And
what can we look for when you say we need to keep a watch out for them? What should we look for?
Sometimes they will just kind of completely shut down and step away from like things that they've always enjoyed doing and stuff. They'll even start cutting off family members and stuff because they're the abusers, either mentally abusing them and causing them to step away from other family members.
Is that a manipulation tactic on their part?
Yeah. Plus, if, like I said, unfortunately, if the abuser is a family member, they will want to protect that family member, whether it's their adult child, grandchildren, or whatever. And they'll actually start protecting them and shutting out the rest of the family to protect that abuser. Because like I said, it's hard to imagine your child or your grandchild would do that to you.
Right.
So they still have that, I want to protect them because that's their child or whatever. They don't have money for even getting their bills paid anymore because the abuser's taken their money, or they don't have money for medications, which is hard because I also know it's common that insurance and everything, the cost of medications, especially for the senior population, is very, very expensive also.
Right.
They won't be in clean clothes. They'll be like have bed sores. They'll stop eating, which is another common one. They're not getting around. They're just not enjoying life anymore. They become more recluse and pulled back.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of them take blood thinners, so they bruise easy anyways, but still watch out for the bruising and a lot of medical issues like the broken legs or the broken arms or the sprained arms or things like that.
Sure.
Watch out for that. And
Well, let's wrap up with this in this first segment. Where can DOVE step in and help in an elder abuse situation?
We've had people bring seniors to us, and we've helped them get orders of protection against their caregivers, family members, whoever who is doing the abuse. And then we can also assist that family member with making a hotline call to get things rolling on that part. Or if they just want to call and even ask where to start, they are more than welcome to call, and Carissa and I will give them the information they need.
All right, very good. So how do folks get a hold of you and the folks at DOVE?
Oh, call us 217-935-6619.
Very good. Jennifer Tolladay, DeWitt County DOVE, is our guest in studio this morning. We've got a lot more with her coming up on the WHOW Morning Show.
Farm Week, keep you connected.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network for this Wednesday. I'm Jim Saylor. Corn higher, beans slightly higher, and wheat also trading higher at this hour. December corn 561.5 up 6 3/4. March corn up 7 1/4, 571.5. December 22 corn 546 up 4 3/4. November beans 1204 3/4 up 5 1/4. January beans up 1.5 pennies, 1213.5. November 22 beans 1220.5 down 1/4. December wheat 788 up 9 1/2. March wheat up 9 3/4. July wheat up 8 792 1/4. December bean meal 341 even down 150. December bean oil up 87 cents 59.34. In the livestock market, December live cattle 131.90 down 30 cents. November feeders 157.02 down 87 cents. And December lean hogs at this hour 74.40 down 55 cents. A look at the markets on this Wednesday. I'm Jim Taylor.
MR Systems Wireless has an immediate opening. They're looking for a full-time internet installer to perform the initial setup of wireless internet and voice over IP services, as well as troubleshoot and repair wireless and phone services for customers. You'll be responsible for the basic installation and maintenance of wireless equipment. No experience necessary. Includes health benefits, mileage reimbursed. Starting pay is $15 an hour. Find out more and apply by going to mrsystemswireless.com, then clicking About, then Employment. Equal opportunity employer.
This is Connie at Love It Once More Thrift Store in Clinton. On Saturday, November 20th from 10 to 3, we'll be having our 3rd annual Christmas open house. We'll have drawings for prizes every hour. Also this month, we'll have new sales each week, so be sure to check out our Facebook page or DeWittDailyNews.com.
Hi, this is Ryan Utterback with Utterback Real Estate.
The price of beans are up.
Dalton, where you at?
Well, you asked me to hit the fields and check the market prices.
I meant the housing market prices, and that's why you're the other Ryan.
Check out the latest on the housing market by clicking the Utterback Real Estate icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Tell Amazon Alexa, play WHOW Radio to hear the morning show and all our programming right there on your Amazon Echo.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. My guest in studio this morning is Jennifer Tolladay with DeWitt County DOVE. And Jennifer, let's talk a little bit as we enter the, kind of a season of need, if you will. Folks will need coats and jackets and, of course, food and everything. This is something we really don't get to that often in talking about DOVE, but the food pantry is available, and you have an annual coat drive that you do as well. Let's talk about those two things.
Okay, yes. We have the food pantry, which is available every Thursday between 10 and 2, and it is open to anybody in DeWitt County.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to prove that you live in DeWitt County, show us ID, whatever. We don't care about income, family size, anything like that. And right now we have a lot of food. So we're actually giving out 4 or 5 big brown grocery bags per person.
Oh,
per
wow.
household.
Wow.
Usually we have different entities in the community who will donate turkeys or hams to us so that we can give those out during the Thanksgiving season also.
Mm-hmm.
We have diapers. We have lots and lots of diapers. So anybody who needs diapers, they can come every 2 weeks and we can give them diapers.
Wow.
Right now we have our coats from the coat drive, and we have sizes going all the way from newborn all the way up to, I think, XL, double XL in men or women.
Okay.
And again, that's open to anybody who needs coats. They just need to prove that they are the caretaker of like the child in need or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can come in and look through what we have and pick out a coat.
With the coats, is that like, do you need to come in during food pantry hours, or like if you have a need, can you just stop into your office and ask about that? How does that work?
We prefer the food pantry hours because we have the extra volunteers to do it. But if that doesn't work because of work schedule or whatever, just call and one of us can schedule a time to get you in to get the coats that you need.
Sure. Is the food pantry, is it at your Dove office there?
Yes, 803 West Leander. Just come to the front door, buzz the buzzer, and we'll get you taken care of.
Now, with the food pantry, just kind of one thing I'm curious about, is that something that's you can come to every week, or is it like limited to once a month per household? Do you do any limitations like that?
It is supposed to be once a month.
Okay.
However, when working with like the homeless population, or we've got some seniors who come on their own because they are very independent, we can't give them that much food to carry back and forth because they live in a high rise, and so we'll give them like 1 or 2 grocery bags, and then they come back when they need to. And with the homeless population, we understand you don't know where you're staying from one day to the next, and you don't need to be lugging around food. That's just an extra burden to try to deal with. If we know they're homeless or they tell us they're homeless, we'll give them a little bit and they can come back weekly.
Gotcha. Very good. So keep those things in mind with the food pantry as well. And I know the coat drive, that's one thing, and I'm blanking on the group that does that, but they've come out and talked with us before about that annual drive and just the many things that they do in the community. Really do great work for the for DeWitt County DOVE. So Jennifer, with the holidays coming up, do you see like an increased need in the food pantry and the coat drive and those are the coats, the interest in the coats? Do you see that increase this time of the year?
Oh, absolutely, because the weather's starting to change, and unfortunately finances are tough, and you know how kids grow out of coats as soon as you buy them. They're growing out of everything you just spent money on. So we do see an increased need for coats, and we usually have those until the weather breaks, February, March, or April. We keep them. So anytime through the year, if they need to come in and get another coat, we have them.
Gotcha. Very good. You mentioned you've got plenty of food, plenty of coats. What do you attribute plenty of food to right now? Are folks just donating generously these days, or what's going on there?
They are. That's all it is that I've said it 100 times. DeWitt County is amazing when it comes to stepping up and supporting the community and helping each other. And as soon as COVID started coming out and it got widely known people were losing their jobs because they couldn't go to work and stuff, we had more and more people who started donating money. We have churches or food. We have churches that bring us like bi-weekly food donations, and it's a lot of food.
Wow.
And just even individuals and businesses and Sunday school groups, and the high school does their powder puff game, and they take what is the price of admission is like a food item. We get part of that. And, so the community is so wonderful at stepping up and giving us more food.
That's great to hear. Very good to hear. When it comes to volunteers, you mentioned mostly you're looking for folks to man the food drives or food pantries 10 to 2 on Thursdays. Do you need more volunteers? And what do you ask of volunteers?
We would gladly take more volunteers. We always need volunteers. We have 1 month, the first Thursday of every month, we usually go up to Bloomington. Even if they just helped out that one Thursday for a couple hours to help unload that truck, that would be appreciated. Basically, just anybody who's willing to help, we will gladly.
Is it beyond, is your need for volunteers beyond the food pantry? I mean, do you need them for other things, other programs maybe?
Right now, just the food pantry.
Okay.
We're still trying to get things up and going.
All right. Very good. As we continue through COVID, Jennifer, our programs or classes or things of that nature, are those coming back? Were they always in session? Like, what are you doing there?
So we have our DV 101 group class back up. That's Wednesdays at 2:00. That kind of touches on the different dynamics and aspects of domestic abuse and what it actually looks like and what are healthy relationships and red flags and everything.
Who do you gear that towards?
Victims of abuse or anybody who wants to learn more about domestic abuse.
Okay.
And then we're trying to get our women's support group back up and our children's support group back up. We used to do it Mondays. I'm willing to change that if there's anybody who's interested in it. We can change the time and date to accommodate people's schedules. we were doing the counseling individually and the DV 101 individually during COVID, but we would like to get it back together, because when you have more people there, it just makes it more interesting because you have more interaction and stuff.
So if folks are interested in being a part of those when they get back going, can they reach out to you and say, hey, I'm interested in this, keep me in the loop? How do they do that?
Just call me at 217-935-6619.
Very good. And Jennifer, is Dove on social media at all? Folks can follow along with you there?
We are. It's Dove Inc. It's one big page. It covers all of the different counties that Dove covers, but it gives you all of our information and everything. Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Jennifer, it's always good to talk to you. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. Hopefully you enjoy it. Jennifer Tolladay, DeWitt County Dove, is our guest in studio. Network news on the way on the WHOW Morning Show.